friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie Yo 380. Day in the neighborhood. My brothers and sisters. TGIF, man. God has blessed us all to see another weekend. And we're going to start this weekend all right. Because we're going back to another one of our closest homeboys who just dropped a video. And that man is Jose Ortiz from Evil Intentions. Back to Evil Intentions, y'all. Hope y'all doing excelente out there today. And I'm glad that you came on back to the channel once again to fuck with the ping. And the title of this video is just horrible, man. Unimaginable cruelty. Cigarettes put out on his face, not fed for weeks. The story of Miles Dobson. Man, I almost got a little choked up just reading the title, man. I think this one right here, y'all, is going to be one of the most dark videos we ever seen from Evil Intentions, y'all. But we're about to check it out. But before we check it out, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you may need. Get what you need. We back to Jose Ortiz from Evil Intentions. Y'all got what y'all need? Y'all ready to go? Then let's fucking go.
Before we jump into today's video, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to Monique Dobson, a loved one of Miles Dobson, the child we'll be discussing today. Monique reached out to me a few months ago asking me to tell Miles' story in full, not only to keep Miles' memory alive, but to help raise awareness to situations like these. If you lived in New York City or the tri-state area at the time, you more than likely are familiar with Miles' story already, or at least the awful headlines. Today's video contains a lot of details of the torment and horror that a child was forced to live through. And while it hurts to have to describe these things, it's absolutely critical that we tell the absolute truth and reality of what happened. Because anytime a situation doesn't seem as serious as it is, nobody takes it serious. And even when people know the situation is that serious, nothing is done about it. It's a story we've heard time and time again, and as of right now, there's no sign that we'll ever stop getting headlines like this. Needless to say, today's video will not be easy to make it through. All I ask is that everybody please go in with caution. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
I'd like to discuss the problem of the battered child, or the battered child syndrome as it is sometimes called. This subject is extremely important to forensic pathologists because in many of these cases the violence has been repetitive, and at some time the victim has been taken to the clinic and has been exposed to clinical observation, and the doctor does have a chance, if he is on the alert, to recognize the possibility that the explanation for which is given by a parent or guardian is hardly compatible with the extent of the injury. The explanation of the guardian or the parent of the infant that it fell from the sofa onto the floor or that it kept falling down the stairs is accepted as an explanation, and nothing more is done about it.
Little Miles Miles Dobson will never have a chance to grow up. The 4-year-old died after being left in the care of a Midtown babysitter. Police sources say his body showed signs of abuse, including cigarette burns and bruises. Investigators were called to the babysitter's apartment here at the Ritz Plaza building on West 48th Street Wednesday morning. Police sources say she initially told them she put Miles on the bathroom counter, briefly walked away, then heard a bang and found he had fallen into the empty tub. But it appears his death may not have been an accident.
The footage you just saw was taken from the film The Battered Child, released to the public in 1969. The film details the harsh reality of battered child syndrome. Battered child syndrome is known as injuries sustained by babies and small children that have accumulated over time. The film details exactly how to spot if a small child has been enduring abuse and what physical signs to look out for, especially if you happen to be a doctor who sees this on a child or a pathologist examining a child's body after their passing. A practice that would be used for years and years to come. The bruises, scars, and calluses on a child's body all have one thing in common. They tell tragically similar tales of children who suffered through the unthinkable, and they wouldn't make it out alive. If they do make it out alive after severe abuse, in many cases, chances are the child is in for many years of depression, low self-esteem, and different forms of PTSD. Sad to say that all these years later, very little has changed. If you turn on your evening news, chances are you won't see any reports of children suffering. But the truth is, it's happening all around you.
That's true, man. Like, a lot of these cases, like, it's children getting abused every day and we never know about it. Never see about it on the news. It don't get out to the public. Only a certain group of people know what's going on and they not telling nobody. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like this happen every day. And I just want to say also, I never heard of a battered child syndrome until now. Thank you, Jose Ortiz, for educating me on that. And it's just so crazy that that movie was put out in 1969, y'all. And all these years later, like he said, pretty much nothing has changed for real. It's still the same ish going on. It's just certain stuff in this world, certain evil in this world that will never go away. And that's just something that we all got to live with. And it kind of sends chills through my body just knowing that that's the reality, man. And we got to live with it. But let's go.
A child's life is taken. The first thing everyone wants to know is who was responsible. A logical response. And as emotions run high, fingers can often be pointed as everyone tries to get answers. But as everyone is looking to the next person for those answers, the child in question, the most important part of it all, is already long gone. On today's episode of Evil Intentions, this is Blame, the story of Miles Dobson.
Get whatever you may need.
4-year-old Miles Dobson.
And I gotta say this real quick too, y'all. The fact that it was the babysitter, man, that just make it even worse, man. I mean, it's bad anywhere it go. Don't get me wrong. If it was the parents, it was bad. But I'm saying for you a parent and you trusting somebody else to take care of your child and they do something like this to them, that is absolutely horrible, man. Let's go though.
Found starved, beaten, and burned on the bathroom
floor of a luxury high-rise apartment in New York City because a system designed to protect neglected kids like him had failed.
Miles Dobson was born on April 7th, 2009, and resided in New York City. He was born to his mother, Ashley Dobson, and his father, a man by the name of Okie Wade. Like a lot of 4-year-olds, Miles was vibrant, curious, and full of life. A child who left his kind impression on everyone he interacted with. He was described by loved ones as sweet, charismatic, and wise beyond his years. He was also trusting, and even if he just met you, he was always sweet and loving. Since he was born, the smile Miles was known for could light up a room. According to interviews with Miles' paternal grandmother, Miles lived with his mother in South Carolina for a few years after he was born. By all accounts, Miles was well looked after and had lots of love coming from both his mom and dad's families. Whether it be Miles dressed up for the holidays, looking as smooth as possible, or at the beach with his mother, he looked to always be a very happy child. Those who knew the family also stated on numerous occasions that Miles was sweet and lively. always in the best of spirits, as a kid should be. But as Miles continued to grow from a baby to a toddler, accusations of child abuse would begin. On January 11th of 2011, ACS, or the Administration for Child Services, opened an investigation involving Miles and mother Ashley with allegations of, quote, inadequate guidance. The investigation was closed on January 25th, just 2 weeks later, because the claims couldn't be substantiated. According to reports, in April of 2011, Ashley Dobson was arrested when after an emergency room visit with Miles led to a nurse calling the police. The nurse noticed lacerations on Miles. He was taken to the hospital when his grandmother noticed a mark near his ear and a part of his face was swollen. Ashley and Miles had been staying at his grandmother's home temporarily in Walterboro, South Carolina. Both Ashley and Miles' grandmother were interviewed by the sheriff's department. In a now deleted video, Miles' grandmother can be heard telling a sheriff's deputy that Ashley soon planned to move to New Jersey. The Christmas before that took place, Ashley and Miles moved to Brooklyn so that Ashley and Miles' father, Wade, could raise Miles together. The arrangement they had in mind didn't work out though, and on one occasion, both Ashley and Miles had to be removed from the home after police were called for a domestic disturbance. On the day that doctors called police, Miles' grandmother would say that she met with Ashley and Miles, and when she saw him, she immediately asked Ashley what happened to him and where the injuries came from. She didn't waste any time, and she wanted to make sure that he was seen. Part of his injuries stemmed from an incident caught on surveillance at a supermarket parking lot in South Carolina. His grandmother also stated that Ashley had been dealing with a great deal of mental issues and needed help getting through it. She wanted to take her own life in the past, so she began talking with the South Carolina Department of Disabilities and Special Needs, because even before she had Miles, she had moments where she would just black out. But at the time, she was told that since she wasn't receiving any type of disability benefits, there was no funding to have people in her position receive the help they may need. The incident caught on camera in that parking lot showed Ashley hitting Miles, and according to her, this took place when Miles ran into the path of speeding vehicles in the parking lot. She fully admitted to striking Miles right away because she was mad and scared of him almost getting run over by cars. She said she tried to catch him and fell on top of him. She then picked him up, and that's when she hit him. It was also stated that Miles had to tumble down a set of stairs at some point after the incident in the parking lot.
Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on the tumbling downstairs thing. I don't believe that. But it's also just so freaking crazy that people like this would abuse their children out in public. They don't even just do it in the private. They'll be in the middle of the grocery store at Walmart, man, doing some craziness like this. I have seen it before, but it haven't been I'm not even just talking about crazy abuse, but I'm talking about we have all been in a store where you see a parent just snatch their child up. Bring your motherfucking ass over here. This how they be talking to them now. Get your ass over here. Don't you fucking move. And that right there blow my mind, man. Now, I can't tell people how to parent their children and stuff, but just calling your child a motherfucker and all that shit to me is abuse. I don't know about y'all, but that's abuse to me. And another thing I want to say real quick about her mental conditions and she needed help and all that. Okay, I get it. But there's nothing that excuses you for what you've been doing to Miles, though. I don't care how mentally effed up you is. You know what I'm saying? There is no excuse for abusing a child. Let's go.
Happened when she called out his name while at a friend's house, and he fell when running down, contributing to the outcome that day. At no point was Miles ever thought to be abused or disciplined in harmful fashion, other than the incident at the parking lot. When an officer spoke to Miles and asked him questions after that incident, the child was still in good spirits. He smiled and answered questions as he drank apple juice. A video uploaded by Miles' aunt describes the situation.
Hello everyone, my name is and I am the auntie of Miles Dobson. I just want to put this on YouTube. Maybe there will be some people who will actually see this video and kind of get a better idea of, who our family is and what actually happened. The media puts out a lot of things and they only put out a part of the story. But my sister was not abusive to Miles. And Miles had a lot of love. We all loved him. Things happen. The system fails us, and the right information, is never put out. And then they have this video of Ashley speaking with the police about a situation that happened. Well, Miles ran out into the middle of the road and it scared her, and she grabbed him and she hit him. She wasn't trying to hit him in the face to hurt him. She was spanking him, as in, don't run out in the road, don't do that, that's bad, I've told you not to run out in the road. Spank. But it just so happened that she hit him, and then that day he was playing and fell down the stairs. So it was just like something happened, and I'm not making light of any situation, but something happened and it turned into this huge ordeal.
By July of 2011, the abuse charges were dropped, and Ashley moved back to New York City with Miles. It was a chance to start new, and there were difficult challenges ahead. But through it all, the adorable Miles still had a smile on his face. When back in New York City, Miles was surrounded by loved ones, despite the hard moments that the family experienced. Ashley was doing her best to be a better mother to Miles, controlling her temperament and trying to turn her life around. But by August of 2011, ACS was accusing Ashley of child neglect, and Miles would be removed from the home. Ashley was still trying to get things together to turn her life around, and according to those close to her and Miles, she was not a neglectful mother. But things looked bad given the history, even if the history there wasn't as straightforward as it seemed. Miles didn't have a perfect upbringing, but he wasn't a hated and neglected child. He was very much loved by those close to him, and the love came from both sides of the family.
And I'm not making light of any situation, but something happened and it turned into this huge ordeal. And I think that people saw that one part of it, and they haven't been able to see anything else or know anything else about Ashley. Ashley is the most loving person. She will give you the skin off of her body if you need it. And that's how our whole family is. We are human, and we do make mistakes, and there's no perfect mother out there in this world. There's no perfect mother, but my sister did not abuse my nephew.
Excuse me. A lot of what Miles' auntie is saying right there, I agree with. She right about the fact that the media sometimes they make it more than what it is. You know what I'm saying? They blow the story up into just this huge breaking news when it really wasn't that serious. You know what I'm saying? And she also right about no mother is perfect. You know what I'm saying? Parents gonna make mistakes. I agree with all that wholeheartedly too. My only question about the whole grocery store incident is Jose Ortiz said that when Miles was running out into the street, the mama, she tackled him. Like, I don't see a scenario where you would need to fall on top of a 4-year-old to stop him from running out in the street. You know what I'm saying? You can just run and go grab him, go run and pick him up real quick. But to fall on top of him and then to strike him, I don't know, man. Because listening to her, it kind of make me not just want to pass judgment so quickly. But it is strange, I guess, to say the least. Good video so far, man. Let's keep going.
According to documents, Miles's father had a prior history of arrests that included identity theft and accusations of violating a woman. He spent more than 5 months in prison. Despite this, in August of 2012, Miles's father, Wade, was given full custody of his son, and he would be arrested just a month after.
Damn.
It's believed that Ashley battling with mental health issues was used against her in court, making them lean toward giving Wade sole custody of Miles. There have been many situations just like this, where that tactic is used to win in court. Ashley, still getting things in her life organized, was living in a shelter in Harlem at the time, and that's mostly the reason for Miles's removal, not abuse. A certain lifestyle can and will affect a small child, one way or another, and the arrests kept coming. When Wade was arrested just a month after getting custody of his son, Miles was now left without a primary guardian, so he would have his ex-girlfriend care for Miles, an ex-girlfriend he had a very rocky relationship with, and it was said that Wade had put his hands on her. It got so serious that when his ex-girlfriend's mother passed away, some of her last words were that Wade wasn't allowed back in that home. But regardless, the address of his ex-girlfriend was the address he would give the judge when asked where he and Miles would be living now that he had full custody. It was also said by others who were interviewed that Miles was seen as a, quote, anchor baby, since Wade would tie Miles to an address so that he always had somewhere to stay and collect public assistance for Miles. Even with all this, after being monitored for a short time, any ACS case involving Miles was closed because they assumed his father had him now and he was in safe hands, despite his questionable past and alleged behavior. So basically, in some situations like this, a child is left with a parent and they just sort of hope that they end up okay. But that's often not the case. And the child, the most important part of the entire equation, has no say and has no choice, oftentimes leaving the child with no protection. True. Sometime in late 2013, Wade would start dating someone new, someone that he spoke very highly about. He introduced her to Miles and always spoke about her. Nobody knew it at the time, but this relationship would mark the beginning of the end for the now 4-year-old Miles. According to reports, 2013 is when Wade began dating someone named Crazy King, also known as Monroe, 27 years old. King was born Christopher King, later on in life transitioning to a woman. There was a 10-year age gap between King and Wade, with King being 27 years old and Wade being 37. It was stated that nobody in Wade's life was allowed to meet this new love interest, but this didn't stop him from speaking highly of King. People close to the situation stated that Wade was always talking about King's fancy apartment not far from Times Square. He often spoke about King's body and his attraction. The relationship with this mysterious new person raised questions. Some wanted to know how King could afford such a fancy spot in an upscale neighborhood, in a residential building where rent was upwards of $4,000 a month. Damn. Wade told some of the family that his new girlfriend was a former model who worked for Nike. He told others that she designed clothes and made videos that she would charge for. All that was really known was that the two met and he really seemed to like King. But there were also other pressing concerns, because in the short time Wade knew King, Wade spoke freely of all the nice things that King would do for Miles, like taking him to a Broadway show, buying him clothes and sneakers, and planning a trip to Miami for the Christmas season. Some of the family told Wade that he needed to be careful, because he had only just met King and things seemed to be moving very fast. Many feel it's wise to keep their children and their love life separate, just until they know exactly who they're dealing with and if the relationship is right for the child to be around. The trust that was put into King struck the family as odd, and they were very vocal about it. But Wade had sole custody of Miles. Nobody else could say anything, and the concerns family members had when it came to the little boy would soon become a horrifying reality not even they saw coming. On June 27th of...
Man, I feel bad for Miles, y'all, because he just been put in so many just effed up situations. Like, not even, well, yeah, they are effed up, but what I'm saying is he keep bouncing from home to home and this guardian and this parent, and you know what I'm saying? He just ain't having a stable life to be a freaking 4-year-old. He only been on this planet for 4 years, man, and he done went through all this bouncing around and looking up to this person and trusting this person as my guardian. You know what I'm saying? This is a freaking child. I just feel bad about that. And his daddy, like, I think his daddy trusting people too easily with this child. You know what I'm saying? Because even before he started dating King, before that, he left Miles in the custody of his ex. My brothers and sisters, would you leave your child in the custody of your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend? I'm talking about not your baby mama or your baby daddy. I'm talking about y'all ain't never had kids together, and now you done had a child, and you gonna leave him with your ex-girlfriend? Like, something just weird about that I wouldn't do, man. I'm not leaving my damn child with one of my exes, even if you trust them or whatever. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm just tripping on that one. But let's go.
2013, Wade was one of 23 suspects arrested on fraud charges. Specifically, the charges stemmed from a scheme at a number of Atlantic City casinos in which more than $275,000 was stolen from people's bank accounts. For this, he was granted bail and a court date for a hearing sometime later. Fast forward to the holiday season, December 19th of 2013. When Wade was arrested at his Brooklyn home because he violated the terms of his bail for his fraud arrest a few months prior. Again, this would leave Miles without his father. Now it's very important to note that Miles had many family members available to care for him when Wade was locked up. Members from both sides of the family. immediate family who cared for Miles deeply and would have taken him in with open arms. But instead, on December 21st of 2013, Wade would make a call to King, asking her to pick up Miles and be his caregiver. King would go to a family member's home in Canarsie, Brooklyn, to pick up Miles, and this would mark the beginning of the end for the adorable 4-year-old. Miles was left with King, and nobody even knew about it. ACS, who monitored Wade when he got custody of Miles, didn't even have any clue about Wade's arrest. Had they been looking into things the way they should have, they would have known that Miles should have been sent to family, not King, who had no relation to the child and didn't even know his family. Regardless, Miles's fate was sealed once he started staying with King at the Ritz Plaza on Manhattan's 48th Street. On January 8th of 2014, at around 10:50 a.m., just a week into the new year, a call was made to 911 concerning a small child who was unresponsive. The call was being made by King to her apartment. When officers arrived at the location, they'd find a limp and battered Miles slumped over in the bathtub. He wasn't breathing, and he showed no signs of life. He was immediately rushed to Roosevelt Hospital. When paramedics and doctors took a look at the condition of his body, they'd find that he was covered head to toe in bruises. He had cigarette burns on his body, and he was missing his front tooth. He also had several marks and abrasions all over his stomach and testicles, according to a CNN article. When asked how this happened to Miles, King stated that she left Miles on top of a ledge in the bathroom, and he was by himself when she went into the other room. A few seconds later, she heard a loud thud, and then she found Miles inside of the tub, unresponsive, implying that Miles fell into the empty tub, and that's how he died. The explanation made no sense and didn't add up with what looked like weeks of torture. The suspicions authorities and doctors had were proven to be spot on, because after questioning at the Midtown North Precinct, King would go on to confess to what happened. King stated that for weeks, Miles was subjected to excruciating corporal punishment. Miles was beaten constantly, whipped with hangers, and beaten with belts, always making sure the metal buckle would strike Miles in his head.
Oh.
The reason for this was because he had been, quote, acting up. King, who was 5'10" and over 230 pounds, towered over Miles and inflicted endless amounts of pain on him. The punishments became much more brutal over the course of the next few short weeks. King stated any time Miles acted up, he would be thrown into the bathroom in the dark, left alone, crying. On another occasion, King became so upset with Miles that his head was savagely slammed into the wall, which is why he had been missing a tooth. She burned Miles with cigarettes between his eyes and the rest of his body. He had a gash on his face from either being hit with a closed fist or a foreign object. King also wore oven mitts and took a scalding hot oven rack and placed it to Miles' leg, severely burning him. He was bound to a chair with shoelaces and gagged with a cloth so that neighbors wouldn't hear his cries. King stated this was done to Miles because he spilled some perfume in the home. Miles was also slowly being starved, with his last full meal said to be on December 26th of 2013. The last time he ate anything at all was on January 3rd of 2014. Lacerations were also found on Miles's fingers, more than likely from him defending himself. Cuts were found on his armpit and scars went across his small back. Miles was also beaten severely because he asked for McDonald's because he was hungry. With all of these awful injuries, on January 7th of 2014, Miles, after being beaten, was thrown onto the 11th floor balcony of King's apartment in freezing temperatures. According to weather reports, on that evening, New York City experienced below freezing temperatures, with the wind chill making it feel much colder. Specifically, it was said that New York City was experiencing a polar vortex. Miles was left on that balcony for more than an hour, and he was only wearing shorts and a t-shirt. According to King, Miles was also severely beaten one time because he said that he felt alone in the world. While Miles was left battered and burned, locked in the dark bathroom, King would carry on with everyday activities, making phone calls to friends and family, as if a child wasn't slowly dying in the home. On his last night with us, Miles' body would begin to shut down from weeks of neglect, torture, and not being fed, losing around 25 pounds very rapidly. King would watch Miles as he began to lose consciousness and his eyes began to lose focus. Miles, the adorable 4-year-old that was loved by so many, was dying. Still, King did nothing. She continued to watch him slip away. It's believed that Miles actually passed away on the 7th, meaning King waited to call the cops. King showed no emotion during the confession. The details of what Miles went through would send familiar feelings of shock across the city, with immediate comparisons to Nick's Mary Brown, who went through similar horrors before her life was taken. For many, the awful news was too much to bear. When she identified Miles's body, it was said that his mother Ashley screamed at the top of her lungs the entire time, distraught and inconsolable. She had visitation rights, but stated that she hadn't been allowed to see Miles since November of 2013. Seeing him in this battered state, lifeless, was the last thing she ever expected.
Little Miles Dobson will never have a chance to grow.
Oh my God, man. It's one thing to just read the title and stuff, but when Jose Ortiz just went through the details of that, oh my God, bro, how could you do that to a little child like that, man? How could you do that to anybody but Jesus Christ, man? A little baby. Like I said, y'all, I just hope it's a special place in hell for just adults. I know mostly I be saying parents. She wasn't a parent, but still, this shit apply to her too. I hope it's a special place in hell for people like this, man. The abuse that she put that child through is just crazy, bro. Crazy, bro. Now, the mama may have been abusing him. I don't even know at this point, man. I'm wishy-washy on that one, if she really was like abusing him. But she wasn't nowhere near abusing him like this motherfucker did, King. And I blame her daddy. I blame the daddy. Man, this is just messed up, man. I want to just blame the daddy because he the one who left him and you know what I'm saying? It left him with King. Man, that was just graphic, y'all, hearing that. We gotta keep going, though.
Grow up. The 4-year-old died after being left in the care of a Midtown babysitter. Police sources say his body showed signs of abuse, including cigarette burns and bruises. The boy's uncle in Brooklyn did not want to show his face.
The way he died, he was defending himself.
Investigators were called to the babysitter's apartment here at the Ritz Plaza building on West 48th Street Wednesday morning. Police sources say she initially told them she put Miles on the bathroom counter, briefly walked away, then heard a bang and found he had fallen into the empty tub. But it appears his death may not have been an accident.
That was a tragic death of that young boy. Horrific injuries sustained over a period of days.
Police today were questioning the babysitter at the Midtown North Precinct. Sources say she made statements claiming she had disciplined Miles for doing things he wasn't supposed to do by hitting him with a coat hanger and her hands and locking him in the bathroom.
Really intelligent, really energetic. He was a sweet kid.
Police sources tell us Miles was taken away from his mother because of neglect and given to his father, but he was arrested last month for bank fraud, leaving Miles in the sitter's care. The uncle says the babysitter was the dad's girlfriend, who no one had met. The death left her neighbors stunned.
I don't know if I've ever seen a 4-year-old in this building.
The Administration for Children's Services is not permitted to say whether or not they have a history with this family. A spokesperson would only say they are actively investigating the tragic death of this little boy.
4-year-old Miles Dobson was found starved, beaten, and burned on the bathroom floor of a luxury high-rise apartment in New York City. He died in part because a system designed to protect neglected kids like him had failed time and again. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio ordered a review of Dobson's case and called for changes in hopes something like this never happens again.
It is very, very painful to know that this child went through such agony and that a child was lost, that we believe there were more than one opportunity to save. And we want to, going forward, learn from this tragedy and make changes as a result.
For most of his life, Dobson was moved from one caretaker to another. His mother, Ashley Dobson, lost custody of her son in 2011 for failing to care for him. She says she lost custody for financial reasons. Dobson was placed with his father, Okie Wade. Wade has an extensive criminal record. Over the period of a year, Children's Services visited Dobson's home 9 times, but never discovered Wade was in jail during each of those visits.
That's crazy too, man. That man was in jail that whole time, and y'all ain't know that he was left with that crazy motherfucker King. The system do fail us. They do fail. Like, man, this messed up, y'all. I'm really at a loss for words for it. It's just messed up all the way around, and nothing is gonna bring Miles back.
Every time we went to visit, our workers went, we were told that the father was working and was working very long hours, 16 hours a day, and that's why he wasn't available. Should we have done something differently? Yes, we should have.
Last month, police say Wade left his son in the care of 27-year-old Chrissy King. Wade was then arrested a few days later for bank fraud. He pleaded guilty and remains in jail. According to a criminal report, the final weeks of Dobson's short life were filled with acts of neglect and violence at the hands of caretaker King. The criminal complaint says he suffered burns on his face, head, and body and bruises consistent with being restrained. King is charged with first-degree assault and unlawful imprisonment and is being investigated on suspicion of murder. King's attorney says his client is to be presumed innocent. Miles Dobson will be laid to rest in a family plot in his native South Carolina. Margaret Conley, CNN, New York.
In the days following Miles's passing, the news made its way to family, friends, and the rest of the city. While his physical torture had ended, even after his passing, Miles wasn't yet at peace, as there was debate on who would claim the child's body. Wade would make a plea with a judge to grant him temporary release so he could claim the child's body and make funeral arrangements. He was denied that request. Ashley Dobson would tell reporters that she intended on claiming her child's body, and Miles's body was claimed a week later. His body was released by the city morgue to a Brooklyn funeral home so that arrangements could be made. A few days later, after initially seeing a judge, Wade was granted temporary release to attend a funeral for Miles, one that was still being arranged. On Tuesday, January 21st of 2014, a funeral was held at the First Corinthian Baptist Church in Harlem, New York. Hundreds took to the streets of Harlem in the midst of a snowstorm to pay respects to Miles. The hearse carrying Miles's body was supposed to be at the church by 5 p.m., but due to the snow, wouldn't get there until more than 2 hours later. The service was short due to the delay, but a lot of emotions ran throughout the entire church. As funeral workers opened Miles's casket, everybody in the church was visibly saddened at seeing him laying there, dressed in a white suit with a matching white hat. His grandmother tried to approach the casket, but quickly had to be assisted back to her seat as emotions took hold of her. Ashley Dobson and Okie Wade were also said to have been visibly distraught at the service as the horrible reality set in. Reverend Al Sharpton gave a sermon at the service, blaming ACS for the negligence when it came to Miles's care. In later interviews, Wade stated that he did his job as a father, and that's all that mattered. He also denied knowing Chrissy King and stated that he had no knowledge of who she was. He also said he didn't know any details of Miles's passing. He only knew of what he was told while he was in jail, finding out more of the awful details as time went on.
I can't believe this motherfucker sitting up here lying like he don't. Wow, bro. You his father, bro, and you gonna say that. But my brothers and sisters, seeing that boy laying in that casket, man.
The aftermath of Miles's death would raise many questions, mainly about how easy it was for a 4-year-old to once again slip through the cracks. The same excuses you heard from child services in cases like Elisa Izquierdo, Daytwan Bennett, and Justina Morales are some we've heard before. Others say to stop blaming child services and blame the parents, because it's them who do this to their kids. But that goes without saying. It does not mean you get to accept a job where a child's life might be at stake and treat it like you don't care. Some of these situations slip under the radar because of huge workloads and agencies being understaffed, with workers becoming overwhelmed. But other times, there is clearly just a blatant disregard for these children. It doesn't matter what anyone says or where the blame is placed. These children aren't here anymore. They suffered, and they met tragic fates at the hands of monsters. And anyone who could have stepped in to prevent that and chose not to should forever be ashamed of themselves. Miles was a loved child. He had a wide selection of family who would have cared for him. He was taken from his mother because she was deemed unfit, but somehow placed in the care of someone who was also unfit, clearly. Decisions were made that allowed this to happen. The second that phone call was made to King, pretty much a stranger to this family, Miles didn't stand a chance. Those 3 long weeks of torture that he endured could have easily been prevented if that phone call went to any one of Miles's other loving family members, and if child services had actually been monitoring Miles's situation. The monster responsible for Miles's death was King. It was King who dealt every vicious blow that ended his life. The big problem is how he ended up in that monster's care. All the blame in the world will never bring Miles back or undo the horrors that he was forced to live through. All of the urgency coming from agencies and others when a story like this breaks is too little, too late, like always. And at this point, all I can bring myself to ask is, what child is going to be next? Rest in peace to Miles Dobson, and my deepest condolences go out to all of his family and loved ones. You aren't forgotten.
We were told that the father was working and was working very long hours, 16 hours a day, and that's why he wasn't available. Should we have done something differently? Yes, we should have.
Man, and I'll say it again, y'all. Rest in peace to Miles Dobson. You know what I'm saying? I'll say it again myself. But this whole story was just a mess. It was a freaking mess, man. Like I said, and like Jose Ortiz said, man, at the end of the day, there's nothing that can bring Miles back. You know what I'm saying? Now, if we do want to play the blame game for real, I would say that I blame King first of all, because King the one who did all this horrible stuff. But you also got to place blame with his father, and then his father don't got no accountability for it. He acting like he don't even know who King was or is. So he the one who left him in the care of somebody that you was just dating. Like, that's just crazy anyway. Like I was saying earlier, when he left him with one of his ex-girlfriends. Like, bro, what the you doing? Can you please take your child and go be with your family members or his mother family members? Like, come on, man. Why are you leaving with strangers, basically? Kind of. You know, y'all know what I'm saying. He got to get some blame. But the fucking child care services do too. For y'all to come visit all these times and not know that the damn daddy was actually locked up. Y'all think he just working long work hours? And that lady saying we could have did more. You damn right y'all could have did more. Y'all could have find where he work at. Let me call his job and see if he really worked there. Let me call his job and try to speak to him. Do he got a cell phone? Any way I can contact him? Like, they should have been trying to get in contact with Miles' father, man, because it would have been very easy to realize he is in jail. You know what I'm saying? That, man, like I said, it was just a whole mess, y'all. And it's just so sad how the torture that he went through. The torture that he went through for those couple of weeks. And then just the fact that King was so forthcoming about everything, just telling all the different details of how you tortured him, and like without a care in the world. Crazy, y'all. This one right here, man. Great job from Jose Ortiz, but wow. And the thing that got me more than anything was seeing that boy in that casket. That image gonna stick in my head for a while, man. Like, that is so terrible, seeing a little baby in a freaking casket with the potential, you know what I'm saying, had so much life to live. Like, barely lived at 4 years old. I digress, my brothers and sisters, man. I'm gonna let y'all get up out of here, man. Y'all just make sure y'all hit that like button, comment, subscribe, do all that. And come on back tomorrow, because it's time to go back to AJ from the Wi-Files. Then, you know, we gotta go to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ballin'. It's the weekend, my friends, and I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope y'all keep on coming back to the bean. But until I see y'all later, you know I gotta say this. Lord, peace and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.